Welcome to Joyful Jen Yoga. Today we're going to be playing with crow or crane pose. It's an arm balance and it can be a little tricky, but as long as you have a strong chaturanga and you really think about engaging your core, you'll be fine. We'll start on our back, which is always a great place to start for arm balances. So we'll reach our arms up toward the sky. Bend our elbows, bring our big toes together, and then start to place the knees up onto our triceps. Now, if this feels nearly impossible, then perhaps we're not there for crow quite yet, but these are some building blocks to get there. So working your shoulder blades off the ground, working your hips slightly off, your core is very active and engaged. Watch that your elbows don't wing out to the side, but instead are really in that chaturanga shape. And then release down and give yourself a little hug. And then we'll come up to a seat. We'll walk our feet wide and then start to lift all the way up into a malasana or yogic squat. And we'll just kind of wiggle it out a little bit here. Notice how the hips are feeling. You really want to be able to be in this squat pose to create that malasana shape using the strength and openness of your hips. So we'll take our hands down and just step back to downward facing dog. Taking a moment to walk out your dog, bend one knee and then the other. And then on inhale, come forward to high plank. And then lift up onto your onto your left fingertips. And then lower, lift up onto your right fingertips. And lower. And then take your knees to the ground. See if you can come up onto both sets of fingertips. So we want to use our fingertips as brakes. We'll take another breath here, feeling the strength in our fingers. And then release back down. Take your right hand, reach your fingertips back towards you. Come into a little stretch for your wrists and your forearm. And then come back through to center. Switch sides, left hand, the thumb and the fingers reach back towards your knees. And then come back, tuck your toes, sit back on your heels, bring your wrists together and just circle out your hands so your fingers don't touch, but your wrists continuously do. And then circle in the other direction. Very nice. And then shake that off, come back up into downward facing dog. Inhale, bring yourself forward to high plank, and then lower halfway to chaturanga. Squeeze those elbows in at your chest. Lift up into your upward facing dog and come on back to down dog. Now, if that feels relatively easy, fantastic. Reach your right leg up and back. You could open and stack your hip if you'd like. And then we'll reach the right leg up and back. Step it to the outside of your right pinky finger and just take a moment to get a nice little stretch through the left side hip flexor. And then use your core, use your center and the strength and stability of your shoulders to reach that right leg straight up and back. Let the foot land. Left leg reaches up. You can play with opening and stacking the hip. And then stepping the left foot to the outside of that left pinky finger. Again, a little bit of movement. And then come all the way back up to downward facing dog. Look forward, step or float to the top of your space. And then when you arrive at the top of your mat, lengthen your spine and fold in. Inhale, arms reach all the way up overhead and hands come to hearts. Walk or step your feet as wide as the mat. Reach all the way up, bend your knees, come back into malasana. Now hopefully your hips are starting to feel warm. I would certainly think about doing quite a few sun salutations or any other practices before playing here, making sure your body's nice and warm. But for the sake of time, I'll assume you're warm. So from our malasana, we'll touch our hands down, spreading fingertips, and then almost like little suction cups, we'll press our fingertips into the mat. We'll walk our big toes toward one another, lift the heels, and come into kind of a funky little squat here. Now, knees will move out to the side. We'll start to play with bending our elbows back, pulling our heart forward, and touching the knees to our triceps, and then lowering back down. We're putting a little bit of weight in our hands. We're drawing our shoulders a little forward, but more than anything else, we're lifting from our navel. So connect to your belly, touch your knees towards your triceps, and then lower back down. Take a pause at any point. You can straighten your legs, release that. Keep feeling your fingerprints press on the ground. We'll lift up, knees will come to the triceps, and we'll again pull our heart forward. Notice that chaturanga feeling in your arms. Watch the tendency to look down. It's not helpful. Keep looking forward and play with lifting one and then the other foot off the ground and rest. You can come down to a Baddha Konasana if you'd like. Take your hands together, interlace fingers, press your palms forward round. And then work your way right back up. So your wrists will get kind of tender, maybe, or a little tired. If you feel uncomfortable, you can always place a blanket in front of you here. So the reason I don't have you step on blocks, like sometimes you'll see people do this variation of crow pose. If you are not yet able to engage through your hip flexors and really engage through your lower belly, I don't really want you playing in crow yet. That's the work that you're going to do. Now, if you're feeling pretty good, you're feeling your fingertips grip the mat. I like to call them tree frog fingertips, like they're little suction cups, but on the ground instead of a tree. And we'll lift our hips, bring our big toes together, bend our elbows straight back, pull our heart forward, and then see if you can start to draw the weight forward so that your toes maybe float off the ground like a centimeter, and then drop back down. And then maybe they lift up a little bit more. And eventually the heels come up towards your hips. So playing with some of those exercises, hope it's helpful. I wish you abundant joy.